What's up? Happy Halloween, everybody. Can everybody hear me? Can you see me? Can you hear me? So I'm just doing this. This isn't going to be like a Murder Monday or anything. It's going to be a little bit shorter. It'll probably be like a Murder Monday, but it won't be as long. Um, I just plan on hanging out, talking a little bit, telling everybody Happy Halloween. Hey, bad vibes, and hoping everybody's staying safe for Halloween, and probably read a couple stories and that's about it. Just mainly just sit here and chat and stuff like that. So how's everybody's Halloween going? What'd you do today, Jack? Did you do anything? Did you hand out candy or anything of that nature? Anybody? Well, maybe I'll just start reading the story then. All right, so Rainer gave me a story to read today. It's called Channel Ether, The Lost Tapes, the complete trilogy, apparently. This is part one. I know you're recording me. I can see you beyond that one-sided window. You think I can't, but I can. Your high class attire and suit jacket's sickening to see how much money we waste paying for you to dress up like high class businessmen. People who have earned their wealth, unlike you, but I'm wasting time. I turned myself in today because I'm responsible for the deaths of 12 men and women. You would imagine that I would be doing all of this as one big joke, one last hurrah before something like a wedding, as a bit of a dare by a best man, but no. I did it and I regret nothing. The problem is that there's a reason why I did it, and it is a motive you will want to hear out. Believe me. Once you hear what I'm about to show you, once you hear what I'm about to show you, you won't be able to turn away, no matter how bad it gets. What's up, Brad? I'm Hank Wesley, a recovering alcoholic and electrician. I got out of rehab just over 6 months ago on good behavior, free of probation, and completely rehabilitated. I was to be sent back into society and back on the job market with an almost clean record. I was able to get a new job, new apartment, and I was able to afford food, clothes, and everything else that I needed. Everything seemed to be falling into place for me. That was until I received my television. Your television? Yeah, I received a television from my uncle. He dropped it off at my apartment one day and told me, "This television is all yours, but I warn you about one thing. Don't flip down into the negatives, or you might come across a channel you don't want to see." He left me an old box television, one of the few that came before the age of high definition TVs. I thought nothing of what he was telling me at the time, but over time I began to see just how strange and utterly terrifying this television really was. Hey, what up, Four Warnings? I plugged in the television that night and flipped through the channels, looking for something that would be entertaining, but found nothing that entertained me on the old television. Nothing but cooking channels and crude late night programs were playing at the time, and half considered simply turning the TV off. But what my uncle said stuck in my mind. The more and more I thought about this channel, the less I could do to persuade myself not to search for it. Eventually, my curiosity caused me to cave in and investigate the channel on my television. On my television, I started flipping through channels, moving upwards in numbers until I hit the channel roof, where there were no more channels I could go up to. Then I went all the way down and started rolling through the negatives. It must have taken me somewhere around 10 to 12 minutes to finally come across it, but after continuously scrolling, I found it. I finally found the channel that my uncle had warned me about. By the time I had found it, it filled me with regret. What I'm about to tell you next, you're going to want to write down. Or at the very least, you're going to want to make sure that I'm being recorded when I tell you the next part. The channel showed a screen introduction and had what appeared to be some kind of cinematic with the name of the channel in big bold text, Channel Ether, followed by the text, "You can't look away, no matter how bad it gets." I would come to learn how powerful of a phrase it was. The cinematic faded out, and I began to watch something unfold on screen. It seemed like it was some kind of exploration film, one where a team of explorers went underwater to find the deepest point of the ocean. It was organized by some rich billionaire bozo who had more money and time on his hands than he knew what to do with. He had He had whom I assumed to be his father and some egghead scientists along with him. They dove down into the depths of the ocean and dove further and further until they found the bottom, the lowest point in the ocean, but something was off. The water wasn't still like they had expected, and from the depths below, a huge tentacle monster emerged and tore their ship apart. The billionaire escaped through an escape pod, but everyone else died and was eaten immediately after the water pressure killed the father and the scientists on board the ship. The camera changed position to the billionaire being on a cargo ship above water, and I watched him write down everything. What gave me the creeps the most was not the monster down below, but the small one that had crept onto the ship itself. Throughout this entire show, though, I couldn't let go of one major detail. Everything felt so clear, as if I was watching it through someone's eyes. The show ended and the screen faded to black to an intro, and I heard a voice with a bit of reverb echo in the slogan of the channel: "You can't look away no matter how bad it gets." I moved away from my couch and went to go check the time. I saw the light coming through the window, and I saw that over 8 hours had passed. My mind was in shock, and I didn't know what to make of it at the time. But worse yet was I didn't know what to make of the voices I began to hear. "You can't look away no matter how bad it gets. Share the show. Go and share the show." I started feeling a horrible throbbing sensation in my head. Every time I hear the voice tell me to share the show, I wanted to feel more pain, and I started to make it harder to see and move. I started to feel the push from the show for me to go and spread it, and whatever had its control over me. And that's exactly where it started. What's up, Unwound Boat? Johnny, thanks for coming. Penny, good to see you. I hope everybody is having a. Oh, you're borrowing your mom's laptop. Well, that's good, though. At least you got one to use, though, Penny. That's good. Hey, Johnny, you did really good on your live stream, man. You did an excellent job on your live stream. I'm proud of you, Johnny. Very proud of you. You did good, kid. You did good. Hope everybody's having a good Halloween. Ooh, Auntie Creeps, hello. Almost missed you there. Yeah, Johnny, you did a good job, man. It was awesome. All right, now we're at part 2. Oh, yeah, please do, man. Get all your friends over here. Get all 3,500 of your subs over here. Hey, happy Halloween to you, Priscilla. Thank you for coming by. All right, so I'm going to start part 2 now. The more and more I kept hearing this voice, the more it pained me. So I quickly learned what I had to do. I had to do as they told me for the pain to go away. I had to share the show, so I went out with almost everyone I would meet. I mentioned the show. The more and more I would share the show, the easier and lighter the pain would become. I worked harder and harder to try to share the show, but over time I began to notice the pain grow heavy again. I kept hearing the voice of the channel or whoever was running it telling me to share the show. Share the show, share the show. The damn voice was all I would ever hear in my ear. It never stopped. It just kept building up and compounding on top of itself, louder, screechier, and more ear piercing the call to share the show was. That was until I started hearing the voice asking me to do the unthinkable. Kill. Kill Chase Bennington. I stopped clenching my fists and pounding at my head when I heard that command. Chase? He was a friend of mine back at the office I worked at. He was a good guy and the only one who welcomed me into the new job. I thought that I couldn't do it, but the voice kept getting more and more painful. I began to have seizures, and the more and more I tried to ignore. I began to have seizures the more and more I tried to ignore the voice. It wasn't until after the third seizure that I tried to take my own life, but the voice I kept hearing always managed to get me to not end my own life, no matter how desperately I wanted to stop. It had control over me, and there was no way I could. This is so awkward. It had control over me, and there was no way I could hold off the voice any longer. I had to kill Chase to make it stop. What did you do to kill Chase? I managed to make a concoction of chemicals that the voices commanded me to go and buy. I crafted the perfect poison, one that would act slow and that would take full effect when he fell asleep. He died in his sleep the next day after the voice told me to kill him. He died from the poison I gave him, having his airway and stomach lining constrict and dissolve. Hello, Paranormal Stephanie. Hey, Jose, what's up, dude? Thanks for stopping by. Legit Fox, thank you. Thank you, everybody, for stopping in. I appreciate it. He died from the poison I gave him, having his airway and stomach lining constrict and dissolve. He choked on his own spit as his stomach acids ate away at his insides. It was such a cruel fate for such a good man. But as soon as I thought it was over, the voice had another person for me to kill. Kill Henry Freeman. The cycle continued onward as I made another dose for him and killed him off as well. But for the voice, it seemed like enough was never enough. I had to become crafty. I had to start taking better care of who I killed, and the voice knew this. Hide the body in the trunk. Burn it outside of the city in the forest. The voice was very intelligent and knew exactly where and how to direct me. In fact, over time, I started to notice a pattern in what the voice was doing. It was having me kill people with the same first letter in their name as one of the letters in the name of the channel. Kill Alice Jensen. Kill Nathan West. Kill Nikki Blackman. Kill Ethan Smith. Kill Luis Rodriguez. I had killed 7 people already, and the cycle didn't seem to have a stopping point. Poison, murder, hide, burn, bury, repeat. That was the cycle, and it went on for months. I was ready to stop there and end my own life, but I found myself in a predicament. What was your predicament? The next time I tried to take my life, gun in mouth, I dropped the gun as the voice said the name of my only daughter, the only person I cared about. The second I heard those words come from the voice, I knew I couldn't stop until the job was finished. Kill Eliza Wesley, or she becomes part of the show. End of part 2. Hello, Eric. Raising 7 Munchkins. Hey, what's up? Thanks for coming in. Hope everybody is having a wonderful Halloween. I hope everybody is staying safe. Before I get on to part 3, let's talk a bit. So let's everybody raising 7 Munchkins. Did you guys like all go out trick or treating or what? What'd you guys do? I know you got like this ginormous family going on. So did you guys all go get some candy, or did you pass candy out, or do you not celebrate Halloween? Oh, is there 15 people here? Oh, that's awesome. Hey, everybody, if you could like and share, that would be awesome. Penny, just got off of work, but I'm gonna dress up, sit on the couch, and eat hot wings. Nice. Most of them went out. What's the age range for your kids? Well, I'm glad you made it there, Eric Bug. I appreciate it. Thank you, Legit Fox. I appreciate that. Oh, that's good that you got some older ones, and that's good. That's good that none of them are like too small anymore, too. That makes things a lot easier, probably. Of course, you got the teenagers too, and they can get a little lippy and stuff. You know what I mean? Four boys, three girls. That's a handful. That is a handful. Thank you for warnings. Thank you, Priscilla. Appreciate it. Yeah, I only had like between 7 and 10 trick or treaters this year. It was the same way last year. Hardly anyone even came. It sucks. When I was a kid, I used to walk for hours and hours and hours trying to fill up my freaking pillowcase. Jack. Yeah, I actually went and spent the last of my money on some candy, even though I actually needed food, but I didn't want to short any kids on some candy, and then nobody came. So I guess my meal consists of candy. Yeah, what it is I think it's trunk or treat. Trunk or treat, everybody could just go into this little parking lot and get tons of candy. Oh, Lisa, thanks for coming by. Oh, that's rough. That's rough. You got zero trick or treaters. That sucks. Yeah, I was sitting in a chair in my costume, which was just like this little poncho I made, and then like a plague doctor's mask, and some kids were walking by, so I actually moved my chair to like my front yard. So whatever, you know. You ran out of candy, Paranormal Stephanie? Wow, yeah, it's been quite a few years since I had enough trick or treaters at my place to run out of candy. Well, I guess I ended up running out of candy last year actually because I handed it out in handfuls at the end. All right, I'll get back to reading part 3 of this. Those words, the words that would mean the death of my daughter loomed over me like a blade over a trapped captive, dreading for when a blade would drop and plunge into my chest and I would bleed out. Desperately, I asked the voice to change the name of the person I had to kill. I pleaded for several hours, enduring head splitting pain from the voice's insistence to kill my daughter. After several painful hours had passed, I finally got an answer. Kill Emily Kapersky. A sigh of relief and a sigh of grief washed over me as the voice changed its mind. My daughter was safe, at least for now. Kill Emily Kapersky, or your daughter becomes part of our show. I had to finish my work and end the killing. If I didn't, whoever was pulling the strings would make my daughter pay for it. I formed the remind I formed the remainder of poison I would need to do the job and prepared myself to finish what I had to do. I was ready to leave all of this behind, to forget about it all, but the voice just kept building. I had to keep going and I had to keep killing. I wanted all of this to be over that so that I could get my life back, but nothing was ever easy. Kill Tim Nelson with a butter knife. The voice kept becoming more insistent on specifics and more difficult. There was no way I could argue against the voice. I had to do it this way. I found Tim after some Facebook searching and murdered him alone at night while he was asleep, having been watching Criminal Minds. Too bad he never watched enough of that show to know how to protect himself from an actual criminal mind. The countdown continued as I completed the murderous spree the show wanted me to complete. Kill Haley Danson by strangling her. More and more as I killed off these people, the task became more and more difficult to complete. And the more I did this, the more it felt routine. Find the person, kill them in a specific way, drag the body away, and burn them in the forest. Kill Edward Mullen by poisoning him. This was the last easy kill I had during the entire ordeal. I killed Edward like I had the others before him and burned the body. The last kill was going to be more difficult. Kill Rachel Nathaniel by brutally beating her to death with a bat. This one was going to be the hardest to clean up and hide. Rachel was a law firm attorney, a very wealthy one at that. I had little chance to prepare a proper murder at her estate, but I had no choice. I knew that I had to do this if my daughter was going to be kept safe. I snuck into her estate at night and hid in the shadows. I climbed through one of the windows and snuck into her bedroom. Not finding her there, I moved to the shower. I heard the water running, and I heard her in there. With the bat ready in hand, I moved to beat her to death with the bat, her blood staining the shower curtain as it fell over her when she fell to the floor. I kept the water running as I wrapped the curtain around her body and ready to drag her out. Her having died in the shower made it easier to drag her body out. I took her body out and burned her as well, but as her ashes rose up into the night sky, I heard the voice mutter to me again. Spread all of the ashes and write the name of the show into the forest floor. I did as the voice told and watched the show's name glowed along the forest floor, and noticed a similar glow around the city as I drove back into town. I was content with letting all of this go, but the voice from the show had one more thing to tell me. Share the show and turn yourself into the authorities. And those last words are what drove me here. The voice, it told you to share the show and turn yourself in. It wanted me to tell you why I killed in the name of the show, and for you to know one last thing. Sir, please try to calm down. Your face is turning red. Sir, you can't look away, no matter how bad it gets. We need our forensic team in here right now to investigate the body. We need to find out how his head was able to explode. Confiscate these tapes and make sure no one under a level 9 federal clearance is able to view these. This case is blacklisted, and we have further investigation to do. We can't look away now, no matter how bad it gets. Yeah, right. I had to kill the guy with a butter knife. Like, whoa, it's rough, bro. Oh, by the way, anyone, if you have like a favorite story, a creepypasta, anything like that that you would like me to read, you can send me a link to it on Twitter. Just send me a link to the story and I will check it out and I will read it. In the meantime, we can chat some more, and I also have some creepypastas pulled up here that I could randomly read as well. Yeah, I don't plan on this live stream being as long as a Murder Monday, because I know a lot of people are doing live streams tonight and stuff like that. So I'll probably, hey, what's up, Mandy? I'll probably cut it off at the most around an hour, depending if I'm like in the middle of a story or something like that at that time. But yeah, it won't be as long as a Murder Monday. I'm not gonna push 2.5, 3 hours tonight. People got stuff to do. Oh, did you get your video done, Mandy? Nice. I don't know if I have read this one. Oh yeah, I did read that one. Read that one during a Murder Monday. What's this one? I don't think I read this one. Okay. All right. Oops. What's my favorite creepypasta story? And what was that one? That one that I read. Was it the No Face? Is that what it was called? The one where the guy had the like the three-holed over the head sort of hat on. That was a really cool story. But I tell everybody my favorite stories are written by this guy right here named Devil Jack. That guy, Devil Jack, is an amazing author. And my most favorite story that he's done is called Guzozo. I have it on my page, and it was just so much fun. So much fun to read that story. It was actually going to be my round two submission for the Evil Idol voice acting competition, but I didn't make it to round two. But that's all right. I actually still have it re-recorded for that. But you should check out Devil Jack stories. And I don't care if you're blushing, Jack. It's true. And so you should definitely check out Devil Jack stories. If you check out any of his stories that are on my page, then you will most definitely be able to find a link in there going to his Amino. And also, I have a playlist on my channel of Devil Jack's The Southern Woods series, which is a very good series. And so far, I have narrated every single story in the series to date. So if you go check that out, there's a whole playlist for that, and it's really cool. But I have another story here. It's called Ground Score. I don't think I've read this one yet. It's a long one. That's all right. All right, so I'll start reading this. Yeah, no, Devil Jack, Raising Seven Munchkins. Devil Jack is an amazing author. He kind of walks the line of inappropriate and appropriate, but he doesn't cross the line. You know what I mean? He's right there on that edge, and he's so good at like not falling over the edge, but he keeps it right there. And yeah, like Forewarning says, that's amazing how he keeps it there. He does that in his daily life. Yeah, he walks that edge every single day, so he's like a professional at walking that edge. All right, so this story is called Ground Score. It says down here that the original author is somebody named Torak, but it's listed under Creepypasta Indexer. So I just wanted to mention that it said the Torak as the original author. I know why you're here. You're here because you have some understanding of the things that go bump in the night and send waves of terror down your spine. You want to hear about the things that haunt the edges of your vision. You want to be scared. But why am I here? I'm just like you. Only one day the creepy part of my life could no longer be contained to the realm of other people's stories. Every person who writes one of these has had this moment. All of a sudden, everything is a real and inescapable, and you regret ever seeing a quick scare in the first place. Sometimes it happens on purpose, and sometimes it just pops up in an unexpected place, and you don't even realize it until it's too late. Sorry for rambling, but this is one of those. It all begun with a hippie roommate and a lot, or the place where things get weird. It's a music festival, but it's more. Lot is a place where music and people and drugs all become one for the right price. And if you're really concerned about the technicalities, it's a version of the parking lots where Grateful Dead fans used to accumulate before, after, and during the shows. It was at one such show where it all changed. I was wandering around between bands one afternoon when a glimmer of something in the tall grass caught my eye. With a sense of childlike wonder one can only attribute to being high as a kite, I approached the shiny. When I got closer, I saw that it was a pouch of aluminum foil. Trash anywhere else at a hippie festival. This was a ground score. Like a child on Christmas, I peeled open the little envelope to expose a few small squares of paper. Each of the, each of the squares was different. I'd seen blotter acid a few times and recognized most of the prints. One was a mystery to me. I spent a lot of time fixating on it, but the best I could figure from the piece I had was that it was some kind of fractal with an odd script I didn't quite recognize. When I first looked at my prize, it had appeared to be purple and green, but later seemed reddish. Who knows? Because I promptly ate a few of the more familiar pieces and went about my weekend. Had a good time. When it was time to return to the real world, I brought the mystery dose home and promptly forgot about it. A few months later, the restaurant I worked for closed, and I found myself moving back in with my parents. Luckily, they were at the point in life where traveling had become a semi regular occurrence, and about 2 weeks into unemployment, I found myself sitting in their empty house staring at my little tinfoil pouch on a Saturday night. I was unburdened by responsibilities, and my parents wouldn't be home until next Friday, so I knew I had plenty of time before that mystery hit. I decided to take some time to fast and meditate to get the proper set to go with my setting the unknown dosages I was in for the unknown dosages I was in for. I took the hit around 6 in the evening and watched dusk creep in. I started watching some Doctor Who around 7 and began to feel screwed about 9. I know it's wrong to feel screwed out of something free, but I was really excited about this unknown experience. It was looking like it was all for nothing. By 10:30, I had retired to my normal evening pastime of browsing Reddit no sleep and assorted creepypasta archives, while making sarcastic and skeptical comments. Something about laughing at the story that just made me pee myself a little softened a blow, doing wonders to alleviate my fears. A little bit before midnight, and long after I had written off the drug, I felt like a lead ball fell in my stomach. I doubled over in surprise and tried to catch my breath. I thought I heard someone laughing. I closed my eyes as another wave of cramping shot through my guts, and when I opened them, everything had gone gray. Maybe it's a mixture of bad acid and a bad episode of Doctor Who. Usually, acid made my world vibrant and new, but this was just scary. The shadows seemed to pulse and ebb with some sort of malicious intent I couldn't quite understand. I quickly pulled my feet. No, I quickly pulled my feet up to the couch and wrapped my arms around my legs. I sat there shaking for what felt like hours. Any time I glanced at the clock, it said the same thing: 0000. I kept reminding myself that this was drug induced state and this would eventually end and everything would go back to normal. It's the hardest thing to believe when you begin to lose yourself, and the overwhelming despair that threatened to drown me was making my situation even more difficult. The shadows seemed tangible as they ebbed towards my unupholstered sanctuary, or no, my upholstered sanctuary, and I knew dread, not the fight or flight, adrenaline pumping terror, but a deep certainty that something was wrong. I was in danger, and there was absolutely nothing I could do about it. I still don't know why I thought it would help to close my eyes. Tortured faces, distorted in agony, screamed behind my eyelids. I only saw their faces, so I was left to imagine the cause of their misery. As soon as their eyes began to cloud over to embrace death as their final relief, they would be replaced by a new victim and screaming. I didn't understand how I could have missed that screaming before. It seemed to be surrounding me. It sounded it sounded off though, like some demented sound editor chose the only the peak moments of anguish from thousands of screams and blended them together in an unending loop of the most brutal and unnerving compilation of human suffering. A blood curdling shriek from the pale blonde housewife faded into a teenage boy groaning into an old man's wail, into another face, and another voice. When I opened my eyes, the faces were gone. The shadows seemed subdued, no longer emanating the same aggression that was so intimidating before. The screams continued, though. It was soft and nagging, barely louder than the sound of my heart pounding in my ears. I figured I could tune it out with a little music. Hopefully, the right tunes would draw me to a better trip on their own. Oh, thank you. Yeah, it's a little electric heater. The heat in my place doesn't make it all the way back to my room, so I had to get something else. I couldn't find my iPod, so I weighed my options. I could risk it with the TV, but I had some mildly unsettling experiences in the past involving cable while tripping, so I should probably stay out. The entire CD collection in my mom's 50 disc changer was hair metal, country, and adult contemporary. Computers with their screens and mouses and keyboards are just too hard for one in my condition. Time to fall back on vinyl. I'm going to interject here. Things I wish I would have remembered before getting my heart set on some Beatles. Thing the thing the first thing the first the first thing is that the record player was located in a spare bedroom on the far end of my basement. The room itself was nice enough ever since I cleaned and furnished it to have a me zone when I was a teen, but that's where the next thing comes in. The rest of my basement was an unfinished pit full of junk we were too frugal to throw away or but hadn't missed in years. I mean, concrete floors, exposed rafters, constant leaking, and plywood walls separating the rooms. You also had to walk through the cluttered garage and down the stairs with the impossible, oh, and down the stairs with the impossible to reach light bulb socket to get there. Filled with the bravado of my new mission, I began my journey. The trek went smoothly enough through the well-lit garage, but the stairs were menacing even when sober. When the bulb that when the bulb that lit the stairwell burnt out, replacing it involved a precarious arrangement involving balancing our ladder about two-thirds of the way up the stairs. All I'm trying to say is this bulb was seldom replaced. With the unlit basement waiting at the bottom, the pool of garage light seemed powerless against the shadows. As I began the long descent, I watched as the amorphous tentacles of darkness crawled up the pale wall past me. It was surrounding me. I didn't brace myself handrail, I'm sorry. I didn't brace myself with the handrail for fear this thing hiding in the dim corners of my world might touch me. I jumped and tripped down the last couple of stairs and stumbled through the basement door. I could have sworn I heard my name in the screaming. At this volume, the screams were almost like a song. They were still as gut wrenchingly brutal as ever, but now that wasn't as overwhelming. I could hear how the rise and fall and the changes in tone between the screams meshed together and resembled something like slow, drawn out chanting of monks. Maybe my mind was just looking for patterns, trying to make sense of this chaos any way it could. I felt a, I felt around on the wall for the light switch. I knew it had always been there. I knew this basement well, but for some reason I couldn't find the switch. The darkness seemed to throb while I continued my search in vain. My only option was to sprint to the corner where the next light switch was. For some reason, I didn't want to show weakness to the shadows that were threatening my sanity, if not my very existence. That and my fear of physical contact with the shadows kept me from safely fleeing my way along the wall like a sane person. I darted to the point where I thought the corner was and reached for the light to my left. There was nothing. No wall, and certainly no instant safety brought on by a welcome pool of light. I ran blindly, now certain that this was not a safe place to be. I couldn't see the light from the garage where I had come in. I began to panic. I thundered through another door and finally found the light switch I had been searching so desperately for. Somehow I had found my way into my room, my sanctuary, and there was light. The light was so welcome at first that I didn't miss color. Compared to the unknown I had traveled through to get there, even the sharp shadows cast by the naked bulb hanging from the ceiling were accepted. I couldn't welcome the sight of anything that menacing, that ominous, but at least I knew where it was and where it stopped. If I could see it, I could run away. If I could see it, I would be safe. What's up, Night Companion? I was beginning to think everything was going to be okay after all. If I couldn't get myself out of this bad trip, I could still exert control, even if only by responding rationally to an irrational situation. I convinced myself that I was on the other side of the peak and things would only get better from this point. I fired up the turntable and started digging through the vinyl bin. I needed something mellow enough to calm me down, familiar enough to take me to a good place, and trippy enough to distract me. That meant the acid rock classic, Sergeant Pepper. I'd tripped to it many times, and it was sort of a standby. I started up a couple of novelty lights I had, a variety of colored lights and laser light projector. Sorry. Soon I was ignoring the menacing shadows on the floor in favor of the shifting patterns on my ceiling. I was getting through this trauma with a little help from my friends. When it came time for Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds, I fell into the song. I fell into the song as I had many times before. Nothing, man. Just doing a little Halloween quick live stream, reading a story. My eyes slid shut as I began to picture myself in a boat on a river in a wonderful, awesome, and colorful world. Somebody called me as I turned my mind to the place where the girl with the kaleidoscope eyes often stood. She was there, but she too was screaming. Her eyes weren't the pools of color I was used to getting lost in, but pits writhing in a constant swell of shadows. The screams came back with renewed vigor, drowning out John Lennon's attempts to soothe my freak out. In my mind, I turned to run from the terrifying vision of Lucy, and was greeted by tangerine trees smoldering against an ashen streaked marmalade sky. The shades of gray invaded my imagination, painting the entire landscape in harsh and uninspired tones. When I opened my eyes, I was relieved to see traces of color had slipped in under the radar while I had been gone. The warm colors seemed to be creeping back in through the reds and the wood paneled walls, and the lights I was running cast intermittent beams of red light through the otherwise grayscale world. As welcome as a small step towards normalcy was, the red glow was almost as unsettling as the shadows. I stood up to kill the lights and locked eyes with my reflection in the mirror across the room. The woman in the mirror looked just like me. She had my hair, my nose, my mouth, but her mouth was screaming. I could hear her clearly in my mind, not instead of the other screams, but over them. The chorus of shrieks seemed to be speeding up, sounding more and more like a message. If only I would stop screaming, maybe I could make out what they were trying to tell me. The eyes in the mirror were just like the girl in my mind, oceans of darkness and menace, twisting and surging against the surface and threatening to break free. I lifted my hands to my mouth and found it closed, as I'd expected, though I'd hope I really was the one screaming. My mirror self also lifted her hand to her mouth. She had a pistol in her hands. I watched anxiously as she placed a barrel in her mouth. Her screaming had stopped, but I filled the vacancy with my own. I turned away when she put her finger on the trigger. I heard the gunshot. I couldn't bring myself to look at the mirror again. I couldn't sit by and idly watch myself blow my brains out, and I didn't want to see what was left of me. I wrapped myself I wrapped myself head to toe in an old sleeping bag and curled up in the recliner. The looping screams continued to build momentum, coming faster and faster until it was impossible to deny it was a carefully crafted message. The shadows inched closer to me, licking the floor at the base of my chair. The dread that had been growing since this started had grown into an inferno of terrified adrenaline, with every muscle in my body pleading me to run. As much as I wanted to flee, to escape this horror, I knew it would follow me wherever I went. I knew the shadows would always be a few steps outside of the light, creeping and waiting. For now, they seemed content to toy with me. The darkness seemed eager, but for whatever reason, it wasn't closing in. Was it waiting for something? On cue, the looping chain of cries grew almost deafening. After listening to the repetition for so long, it was hard to hear anything but disjointed syllables. Unfortunately, like Matt Gabb's, once it clicked, it was impossible not to hear. Jenny, we are the monsters in the shadows. We are the things that go bump in the night. We've been watching you. I remained in my cocoon until the sun lit my basement room. I never bothered to turn the record over. I just sat in the red room and stared at the grasping fingers of my shadow tormentors. I ran through the basement, up through the house, like my life depended on it, because maybe it did. The rest of the colors came back gradually once I was upstairs and in the sunlight. I figured I was straight again. It was about noon on Monday. I wasted the rest of the day playing mindless flash games and watching Netflix. Everything was golden until I went to bed. I haven't been able to sleep. According to my computer, it's Thursday. That means it's been 5 days. 5 days, and every time I close my eyes, I see the same victims from before, only now I'm just watching them die. The housewife appears to sob softly before letting go of her suffering. The teenage boy cries out for his mother one last time. The old man chokes mid scream and twitches silently for a few moments. The screams have stopped. I actually haven't heard them at all since I deciphered the message. That's all they needed to say to me. I never thought I'd say this, but I wish they'd come back. I wish they would tell me what they want from me. The silence is deafening. I keep catching glimpses of myself in the mirror. I can't bring myself to look directly at it. I'm terrified that's their last message for me. They wanted me to see they wanted me to see it the first time, but I ignored them. They're telling me what I have to do. They're showing me the way out. My parents will be home tomorrow. I only have to make it one more night, and Mommy and Daddy will be here to make it safe and warm. I made sure to turn on all the lights in the house well before dusk, but that doesn't keep them away entirely. There will always be another dark corner and another void behind the couch or under the bed. They always find a place to creep in, and they're always constantly reaching just a little further into the light than they should. The light in the kitchen just flickered out. Only an extremely paranoid person would say this is anything more than chance. Then again, the bathroom down the hall just went dark. There are things that reside in the dark corners of our world. They're very real, and they don't like to be mocked. And there's that one. Yes, and happy Halloween, everybody. All right, so I think I'll probably end this one. Read a couple stories. All right, raising seven munchkins. You have a good night. Happy Halloween to you, and I hope you sleep well. Jack mocking. Don't mock the darkness, Jack. What are you doing? That's dangerous. Yeah, you probably shouldn't look in the mirror. I mean, you know, seeing yourself put the gun up to the mouth and all that stuff is pretty much a pretty good giveaway that you don't want to do that, you know. Geez, Jack, you know, if you start mocking the darkness and stuff like that, Jack, who knows what could happen? You could slip and fall or trip and fall, break your arm. Who knows? All right, though. I'm going to end this and thank you, everybody, for stopping by. I hope everybody had a wonderful Halloween. Um, like it if you like it. Please subscribe. And if you're on my Discord, I'll probably catch you in the voice chat. See ya.